Ron DeSantis may not be a presidential candidate yet, but the Florida governor is expected to make a decision when his state's legislative session ends in May. Still, that is not stopping Donald Trump from treating him like a top rival and maligning his acolyte turned enemy. The latest dig, slamming DeSantis' foreign policy credentials after his criticism of Vladimir Putin.
This kind of neocon rhetoric mocking Russia's nuclear weapons, along with implying that Putin must be tried and presumably executed as a war criminal, only increases the chance of deadly nuclear escalation. We need a statesman and a peacemaker in the White House, not someone who recites mindless and recycled talking points to win the approval of the failed foreign policy establishment.
Our panel is back with us, and Trump is going after DeSantis from the far right here. But I just want to play this real quick. This is from Hannity, his interview with Hannity, where he talks about his, I guess his friend, Vladimir Putin.
Putin.
Well, I'm going to have to go a little short, but I got along with him great. Had I been president, he would have been much better off because he wouldn't have gone into Ukraine. But ultimately, he's going to take over all of Ukraine.
Sounding there like he is ready to throw in the towel on all of Ukraine. That will also be a problem, too. But DeSantis is dealing with the issue of the flip-flop, being tough on Ukraine at first, then backtracking. That's going to get him in trouble.
And this is why DeSantis has a tougher race to run, right? Because he has to not only try and appeal to the Trump base, which was his initial comments about Russia and Ukraine, calling it a territorial dispute, but then he also has to listen to some of the criticism that he's getting from establishment Republicans who want him to have a more mainstream position on Ukraine. Now, when you see Trump there saying that Putin's going to take over Ukraine, I guess that's how he's going to avert World War III, is just allow Putin to take over Ukraine, because that's what he said in his criticism of DeSantis, saying that he is the only one who can prevent World War III and bring about peace.
Again, something tells me that that's going to be an issue. But DeSantis is also trying to burn, I mean, he's the governor of Florida. He has to burnish his foreign policy credentials in one sense.
Yeah, and I mean, there are places in which I think he has really kind of stake out ground, right? Like he has called for being really tough on China. He's reportedly planning a trip to Israel, I believe, next month, right? And he's taken former trips to Israel. And I think there are places in which he feels like he can take really a tough stance. I think on the Ukraine issue, I mean, he was trying to navigate this fine line. Polling shows that some Americans are concerned about kind of endless spending in Ukraine. I think the challenge for DeSantis, to your point, is like there's not a lot of wiggle room for nuance on that issue within the Republican electorate.
So this has been what pretty clearly a tough couple of weeks for DeSantis, and it's a time when he's been playing to friendly media, rolling out a book tour. And look at the polls, the Fox poll today, just the latest, showing Trump growing in his lead against DeSantis. 30 points now compared to 15 points ahead in February.
Yeah, that's the big problem for DeSantis, because he's kind of putting out this trial balloon kind of in the race, but not officially in the race, and things aren't looking good. And he's not getting the foothold that he thought he would get as the alternative to former President Trump. And the risk is right now, he's still staffing up, he's still raising money, but if he can't show that he can be that viable Trump alternative, then we could see that start to diminish, and he might not ever officially become a candidate for president.
He is dealing with the fact that he's not a candidate, but Trump is attacking him like a candidate.
He's become a punching bag for Trump while he waits.
Whether or not he's in the race.
It also doesn't help that his big calling card was just taking on the woke corporations. He took on Disney, and then Disney did this. Disney quietly took power from DeSantis's new board before state takeover. The Trump allies are having a field day with this. I just saw a tweet from Roger Stone basically saying that Disney took, he says, Ron DeZero to the cleaners. This is actually now going to become part of an attack line by Trump against DeSantis.
It's so interesting because it was kind of one of the major things that DeSantis used to not only get national coverage, but to kind of stake himself out as someone who's like the champion against the woke left, right? And now you see these snarky comments, not only from Roger Stone, but a Trump super PAC saying that Ron DeSantis got out-negotiated by Mickey Mouse. I mean, they're having fun with this one. And this is the key in politics, right? Is when you can turn something that is a major strength for someone into a political weakness, and that I think is what they're trying to do here.
And I think it also shows that when you go against a powerful corporation, then it might not be as easy of a road as when you're doing legislation against kind of helpless transgender kids or taking books off the shelves of schools. You know, I think they assumed that Disney was just going to take this, and that's clearly not the case. It just shows that they probably underestimated what they were up against. Governor DeSantis underestimated Disney, and now it's coming back to haunt him.
And this Disney, what's amazing about this story is that the Disney move basically happened in broad daylight. And the DeSantis folks were blindsided. Now they're calling in big-time lawyers in Washington and in Tallahassee to help, but it may very well be too late for all of that.